Another form of information you'd be given and asked to find the equation of a line is you might be told the slope and a point that's on the line. So imagine they tell you, okay, so we have this number or this point, 3, -7. Okay, that's on the line, and your slope is 2. So this is the graph of the line. Now we're wondering, what's the equation of the line? Well, one thing that's really easy to do is plug in that 2 for the slope. Okay, so we're halfway there. We just need to figure out the b value. The problem is this 3, -7, this point right here is not on the y-axis. And remember, b is a y-intercept. So that point is not the y-intercept. So I can't use the 3 or the -7 for the b value at all. Instead, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work and figure out what b is. So what I like to do is I'd like to call this my temporary solution. Okay, this is my temporary solution. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what, that 3 stands for x value, and the -7 stands for the y value, and look at my equation. I have an x and a y. And so I'm going to plug in 3 for the x, and I'm going to plug in -7 in for the y, but I also want to emphasize it's temporary. I'm not keeping it there. Remember, the equation of a line keeps the x and the y in the equation. So these are going to turn back into x's and y's when I'm done with this. So now, if you look, the reason we do this is because now if we look at our equation, we just have a b value here, which means I have one variable and I can figure out what it is, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to do my math. 2 times 3 is 6, so I have -7 equals 6 plus b. Subtract the 6 from both sides, and I get -13 equals b. Now, if I look at my graph, I can believe that down here is -13 when it crosses the y-axis. And so my equation now is going to be y equals, my slope is still a 2. Notice I still have the x and y in there, and then I'm going to have -13 as my y-intercept. So here's my equation. Now, one thing that happens when you do this is if your slope is a fraction, you might be working with fractions in here. So you just have to remember that when you add and subtract fractions, you get a common denominator. When you multiply or divide, you don't. You just multiply across the top and bottom. All right, so that's slope and a point.